Ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. Start the show. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome into another episode of the Triple Play Fantasy Baseball Show, a proud member of Fantasy Points and the Fantasy Points Media Group. Mendy here, joined by the full cast and crew and our special guest tonight, who I'll get to in a moment. Starting off here with Doc, who is coming off the IL to try to make an appearance tonight out of the bullpen, but it may cut his appearance short because he's still very sick. So, Doc, how are you feeling?
I wrestled through today just to get on this pod, I think Marty transferred the COVID IL to me. So, just virtually through here.
Yeah, it sounds like it. But we got a healthy Marty party back in the house tonight. You can just see the glow on his face. He's just fully healthy. Oh, look at that. He's got his patented hat on. Marty party, what's good in your world?
Lots good, man. It's good to be back here. It's good to be feeling a lot better. I will say, though, I had a COVID rebound over the weekend. It is a real thing. I felt good for like 2 days, and all of a sudden, boom, felt like trash. But, hey, it's time to talk about catchers. So I know I needed to just man up. It's the hardest position, so I need to come here with my A game for tonight.
Yeah, man. It's the position that nobody likes talking about, but it becomes very valuable in fantasy baseball. Just like our man LC, we made overlook him at times, but he's a very valuable member of the team. LC, what's up?
Yeah, it's been a great day. I worked my butt off. I got overlooked on Triple Play. Now I'm actually able to sit here and talk to some adults. I've been looking at computer screens all day. So I'm going to have to work to not talk too much tonight, I think.
It's okay. Should we bring back the LC buzzer? Like when you're
talking
Is that a real thing?
That used to be a thing. Yeah, when he was talking too much, I'd play it just to let him know. But that we'll see. That was with the good old days. LC's information is always really good, so I don't like to cut him off. But joining the show tonight, of course, I told you we had a special guest. If you're listening to the pod, you can't see him. If you're on YouTube, you definitely can see who this gentleman is. We welcome in a man that's a recently licensed lawyer. He is a fantasy baseball writer and podcaster for Pitcher List, fantasy football writer and podcaster for the QB List. And when he's not playing fantasy baseball, he's kicking your ass in karate, as he's a black belt, and he will tear up the slopes, pizza and French frying through the black diamonds. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome in Callan Eslager. How's it going, man?
Good. Thanks for having me on. It's been excited to be here.
Excited to have you on. Did I pronounce your last name correctly, which I forgot to ask you before the show if I did?
I've gotten it many, many times. It's L. Slager. Slager.
Dang it.
Listen, I've gotten every pronunciation of both Callan and L. Slager in my life, so I'm used to it by now. You just call me whatever the heck you want.
Could I call you Big C?
Yeah, why not? Why not? Let's do it.
I'll say Callan and I'll say Big C. So we'll switch back and forth here. But Callan, man, I got you're doing a lot of things right now. QB List, Pitcher List, specializing in relief pitching right now. How's the offseason been for you? Have you found yourself super busy, or have you kind of now been enjoying some time off and now prepping for the season as we are now in 2023?
Like you said, I do a little bit of both QB Lists and Pitcher Lists. So during football season, I was pretty much ramped into football coverage. And then towards the end, about during the holidays time, started wrapping that up and started diving into my ranks and projections and stuff for fantasy baseball, getting back into the hosting of In the Pen. And then once spring training comes around, it'll get more into a weekly pod and get that ramped back up again. So excited to get back to baseball. It's still always will be my number one.
Now, let me ask you, how hard is it to balance between football and baseball? Because doing two sports is definitely tough, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be, especially getting a new job. I had to balance that, but I love it. So it makes it a little easier to come home and be like, okay, let's just talk about sports and write about sports. It's not exactly a gig I don't like doing. I don't mind it.
That's right. And there's no off season because when football's in season, you're doing football. When baseball's in season, you're doing baseball. So there's always something going on. So it definitely is exciting. It's fun. And we got our buddy Mike Carter checking in here. What's going on, Mike? Happy Wednesday. Always enjoy when he pops in here. Make sure you check out Mike's podcast. They do a great job, the Fantasy Baseball Beat. They have some great shows coming up your way, coming in the off season and during the regular season. But this show tonight, as you guys are tuned in for, of course, as I mentioned, I teased on Twitter, we have our position previews kicking off tonight, starting with our top fantasy catchers for our fantasy catcher preview here. And it's an ugly position. I get it. People don't like talking about it, but it's a necessary position to address, especially when we talk about two catcher leagues that can be a huge difference in terms of positional advantage. So we're going through using NFBC ADP over the last 2 weeks. So we are looking, today is January 4th. And we are looking back basically since right before Christmas. And we are going to give you our favorites and our fades in the top 10, 11 to 20, and then our favorite going outside the top 20. So let's start it off first with Callan. Now, I mentioned the top, there might be some overlap. So if anybody says a name that you already have, you can just piggyback it and we'll move on. And if you disagree with something, we're going to go head to head and we're going to battle it out. So Callan, give us your favorite going inside the top 10, talking about ADP value for that player.
I think my favorite for value, it's Alejandro Kirk this year. And last year, he was someone I was full on fading. I didn't want anything to do with that. Didn't buy into the hype. I was wrong, and I will admit I'm very wrong a lot of times. But Alejandro Kirk this year, especially now with the trade of Gabriel Moreno, the playing time is there. He increased almost all his advanced metrics, average exit velocity in the high percentile, ex-WOBA, max exit velocity, hard hit, XBA. He doesn't strike out. He doesn't chase. It's everything you want in a player, and he's playing in Toronto. A good lineup. The playing time's there now that Moreno's gone. Yeah, Danny Jansen's still going to eat into it, but there's an open DH spot for Kirk to get a ton of at-bats. There's a split between Jansen, so there's just a lot to like with him. He's going to hit near the top end of that lineup, and compared to everyone else who's going around him, he's getting very close to being my top 5 this year overall. So at that value being the 9th catcher off, or 7th catcher, off the board right now, I'm all in on that. And I think I'm going to have Alejandro Kirk in a lot of leagues at this point.
Good luck, as Marty Party is a big Alejandro Kirk guy this year as well. I know that's one of his loves in this range. Marty Party, go ahead and piggyback off of that. What do you like about Alejandro Kirk?
He is a man after my own heart. I absolutely love me some Kirk. Yeah, not too much to add there other than that he is also big and beefy, which is very important, especially when it comes to the catcher position.
It's a bonus.
It cannot be
definitely
overlooked.
A bonus.
Yeah, exactly. Steamer has him projected for 535 plate appearances. So we talked about Moreno being out of there, so no questions about him having that, as much playing time as possible. 19 home runs, 70 runs, 74 RBI with a 285 batting average. You gotta love that. And for you in OBP leagues, a 371 OBP Steamer projection as well. So he should be batting 4th in that Blue Jays lineup. His strikeout percentage, 10.4. His walk percentage is 11.6. A 278 XBA last year. His profile is absolutely beautiful. I'm super excited for him. Great ADP at 93.
Yeah, I think the power is one thing people might question about him in terms of maybe in his best season, you might expect closer to 20 home runs. But besides the little bit, you could say, lack of power, I guess, is everything else is beautiful. Like you said, 285 batting average, 372 on base percentage, the strikeout rate being just 10.7% last year, which was top 2% of all of baseball, not just catchers, top 2% of all of baseball with a double-digit walk rate. Its expected batting average being 278 was top 8 percentile of the league. He's also a great defensive catcher in terms of his pitch framing, top 94 percentile in terms of his pitch framing. So he'll DH, he'll catch, he'll get a lot of playing time next year. A great catcher to have. And right now you're getting him as the number 7 catcher, which just seems to me is insane value for him. So I love the call, guys. I figured he was going to get taken, so that's why I stayed away from picking him, but he is a 100% smash value, and I love the call. LC, let's go to you next, and let's talk about your smash, your favorite player going inside the top 10, talking about ADP value. Who would that be?
I'm going to talk about MJ Melendez. I think MJ Melendez is a fantastic value where he's going. I have him at currently going around pick 97 right in the top 100. And he is, let me count this out. Let me count this out. He is the 6th catcher off the board, right in front of Kirk, actually, and Contreras. And I think that he has potential to be a breakout season next year. And his first season, he got over 500 plate appearances, put together a 99 WRC plus while he was learning to catch in the big leagues. I think this being his second year in the big leagues, that excellent barrel rate, that well above average league barrel rate, well above league average barrel rate, that excellent launch angle, you're going to start seeing a little bit more power coming through. Also, his expected batting average was much higher than his actual batting average last year. So you could actually see a little bit of growth there. So projections have him hitting almost 240 this year, which would put him right at about average for catcher. With the elite walk rate that he has, he hits in the top of the lineup for the Royals. And I think that's going to give him a lot of nice counting stats, not to mention the fact that he's probably going to be playing just about every day. I'm really high on Melendez this year.
MJ Melendez is a monster. You remember last year, before he was talked about before the season, his minor league numbers, he led all minor leaguers in home runs, had over 40 home runs in the minor leagues. And we've talked about this on previous shows. When you look at his splits versus lefties and righties last year, when he's a left-handed batter, for those that don't know, versus lefties, he hit 295, 357 OBP, 482 slug. Now, you could say that could come down a little bit, but when you look at him against righties, which keep in mind, if he's a lefty facing a righty, he should have a better batting average than he would facing a lefty. He had a 193 batting average versus right-handed pitching as a left-handed batter, which you don't see that too often, but a 299 on base percentage. I think that goes up tremendously this year and balances out to a lot more what we would expect versus opposite hand pitching. You combine that with the fact that his BABIP last year was only 258. I believe league average BABIP is right around 270-ish, like 272, 273. So you could potentially have a batting average increase with a BABIP that would go closer to what you saw in the minor leagues. In 2021, he had a 286 in AA and a 310 in AAA. So I do think that there's a lot of factors in his favor to even be better next year. And the position flexibility, like you mentioned, is a definite bonus for that. What about you, Doc? Let's talk about your player inside the top 10 here. I love the first two guys here. I think the back half of the top 10 is loaded with a bunch of great value. Who are you picking?
I do too. I like both guys that they mentioned. I'm just going to reiterate my love for Willson Contreras, the 7th ranked catcher in NFBC drafts for the last 2 weeks with an average pick of 96. Better lineup in the Cardinals with hitting around Arenado, Goldschmidt, and the multitude of young talent they have. His career high in runs plus RBIs is 130, and Steamer has him projected at 141. There's going to be no competition at catcher now that Yadi Molina is gone. The metrics back it up. His hard hit percentage tile in the 2022 was in the 90th. Max exit velocity.
It's a big word, Eric.
I know. 98th percentile. And I'm really having my fingers crossed for his durability. He's hit 20 plus home runs in 4 seasons, and the max games he's played in those 4 is 128. He had 21 homers in 117 games in 2017, 24 homers in 108 games in 2019, 21 homers in 128 games in 2021, and 22 homers in 113 games in 2022. So even if he can give you 130, 140, he could be chasing 30 plus home runs in a better lineup.
Let me ask you guys, would you rather have Willson Contreras at pick 99, or would you rather have William Contreras at pick 117? They go back to back.
W. Contreras is who I'd take.
I think I might go William. I think that the ballpark's a little bit better.
So you'd go Michael William? LA Eric might get that.
I don't know what that means.
I know. Eric is going to get it. No one else is going to get it. So you'd go William. Marty, you go Willson. Willson! What about you, Callan? Where would you go?
I'll take Willson. I'm going to get to William Contreras in a little bit, and I'm not in on it this year.
Oh, are we going to be fighting?
We might be
Oh,
fighting.
boy.
We might be fighting.
All right.
Oh, it
You
sounds
know
like-
my answer is Willson.
Yeah, so it's 3-2 for Willson. Let me talk about William Contreras, and then we get to go right into Callan's rebuttal here. So my favorite going inside the top 10 is William Contreras. And let's just paint a picture here. He's played 153 career games. So basically a one full season just about over his 2 seasons in the big leagues. He has 28 home runs, 69 RBIs, and a 260 batting average with only 162 strikeouts over those 153 games. His 28 home runs ranked 10th most over the last 2 seasons in all of baseball among catchers, and only Cal Raleigh is anywhere in the vicinity of his at-bats with those types of home runs. Just looking at the leaderboard for those home runs, most of the other people in the top 10 outside Cal Raleigh have at least 200 at-bats, if not 300 to 400 more at-bats than him over the last 2 seasons with the more home runs than him. So the path for the catcher position is legit. Besides the power, 2.3 fantasy points per game among the catcher position ranked 5th most who played at least half their games last season. So he's given you plenty of fantasy points per game. He's going to play every single day now in Milwaukee, as he cannot just play catcher. His 89 starts last year, 57 were at catcher, 31 were at DH, and he also played 1 in left field. So he can move around a little bit to get his bat in the lineup. And we talk about players that we'd like to see finish strong. Over his final 48 games, he hit 304 with 9 home runs and 22 RBIs. And a team like Milwaukee that struggled against left-handed pitching last year, he just hit 354 with a 1.036 OPS against left-handed pitching. And just the more you look into it, it's just he's going to be, I think, a really exciting player. He's going to get a ton of at-bats. He's going to be in a decent lineup, and he's going to be able to play almost every single day. He's the discount in the top 10 for me in terms of the at-bats you're going to get for him. Sean Murphy goes right after him, but I like the upside of William Contreras here, and I think that's my favorite value in terms of ADP in the top 10. Callan, let's go. Come at me. Where we differ here?
I have nothing to really counter in terms of that for the hard hits there for William Contreras. The lineup's going to be there. He's going to be in the middle of the lineup. He's going to Milwaukee, which we all know is a hitter's paradise. But to me, it just comes down to where he's going in the draft. You mentioned Cal Raleigh with that power lead. I'd rather wait the couple rounds, just draft Cal Raleigh, even go after William Contreras, because Cal Raleigh's going to hit in the similar spot and play in Seattle, which we all probably think is going to be a better lineup this year than what Milwaukee is. To me, it's not the player, it's more of the draft position. You look at the guys that go after him, I would take the chance on some of the upside of a healthy Tyler Stephenson before I take, or wait in terms of value for Tyler Stephenson, wait potentially on a Keibert Ruiz breakout or bounce back before that. So for certain players, I just like a little bit more in terms of ADP. I don't dislike the player. It's more of where he's going, just considering the guys who go after him who can have similar potential power to what Contreras has done, especially with Cal Raleigh so many rounds later.
I do think if he creeps up, and I don't have it, like I can look in a second to see what his ADP was a couple of months ago, but if he creeps up inside the top 100, I think I can get with you on that. Right now, he's going over a full round later than Willson Contreras is. So he's, to me, kind of like him and Sean Murphy pretty much go back to back. They're kind of like if you're waiting on a starting catcher, like in a 12-team league, 1-catcher league, like that's kind of the range I would wait for. In a 2-catcher league, that's kind of, to me, like the back end of the catcher 1 territory that I can also target if I want to wait on catcher. When you get to Tyler Stephenson and Cal Raleigh, you're hoping that they can have bounce. Well, Cal Raleigh gives you a lot of power, but to me, he reminds me a lot of Mike Zunino. So it's like, can we expect him to do it again? I don't know, but I can see the ADP, especially if it creeps up anymore, being an issue. So I can understand that counter.
This was like the least hyped up fight ever.
I know. You put 2 Jersey guys in a fight, you'd think there'd be a little bit more than that.
That's right. Yeah, you called me
too much out of that. So
I'm a Jersey guy now. Yeah. All right, so let's now go to the flip side of the coin. Let's talk about our fades. Cowan led it off with his fade of ADP for William Contreras, not hating the player, but hating the ADP. Let's go now to you, Marty Party. Let's talk about your fade inside the top 10. Who are you find yourself not drafting?
He'll be JT Realmuto, and it's the same thing as it's not the player, it's the his current ADP. So let's just get it out there. He's the best fantasy baseball catcher there is, and there's absolutely no doubt about it. But his ADP is 24.47, so you're going to have to take him in the 2nd round. And there's a few reasons I'm not going to be drafting drafting a 32-year-old catcher in the second round. Number one, catching's the hardest position in baseball. He could get hurt at any time. I know there will be opportunity for him to be at the DH, which will allow him to rest a little bit. But at any time, he could take a foul ball. He could pull a hamstring stealing. As we know, he's going to try to steal as much as possible. With Harper being out, they're going to try for the first few months to get as many runs as possible at the top of that lineup. And then number two, stolen bases should be more plentiful. That's what I've heard from all the very smart people, from Zimmerman all the way down, that there should be plenty of steals. So to make up for those, and this is what Steamer has him projected for, 12 steals, 20 home runs and 12 steals, which is really far off from last year where we had 22 home runs and 21 steals. So I think I can make up those 12 steals somewhere else. And then three, the opportunity cost is just too much. Garrett Cole's right there, Sandy Alcantara, Class A, Edwin Diaz, and this guy named Mike Trout, who hit 40 home runs last year when he was injured for half of it. So there's just too much stacked against him. Again, it's not Realmuto, the player, but just where he's going. It's too rich for my blood.
I agree with you. I mean,
very good, Tallman. Very good.
Top 2-round pick is definitely very rich for catcher.
Opportunity cost.
Buddy Jasper checking here. What's up, Jasper? Good to see you, man. Harry, Merry Latemas and Happy New Year to you as well. Hope you had an awesome holiday. And yeah, I agree with you, Marty. Top 2-round pick is very rich with the amount of catching that you can find. We just talked about some amazing values in the back half of the top 10. I think unless you're big on JTR is going to repeat last year or have an even better year, you might as well just wait for the position. So
yeah, and real quick, just overall my strategy, I think it's you're going to need to get 2 catchers in the first 20. You cannot wait past 20. It's a graveyard. Todd Zola was talking about it earlier today. That's one of his biggest takeaways from his pre-draft.
I'm with you.
So, yeah, you got to get in there quick.
I'm with you. Good advice there. Let's go to you, LC. Let's go to your fade inside the top 10. Who do you find yourself not drafting much of this year?
Someone who I've been on for a long time, someone who I really enjoy watching, someone who I think now finally might be starting on the downside, perhaps, is Sal Perez. He's still going in the top 70 picks. That's probably the only reason I fade him, because I feel like he's the type of player who gets you the production in smaller samples, even if he gets injured. But what we started to see was injuries kind of pile up on him. He missed a big chunk of time last season, still finished as a top 5 or so catcher. I think it was top 5 or top 6, even missing 30 or 40 games this season. But what happened, what his injuries were thumb injuries, hand injuries. He missed the last 4 games of the season with that same thumb injury that he had missed 6 weeks for earlier in the season as well. So I just worry about the repetitive injuries. I do think that he probably will miss some time with some injuries this season, but I also think that, like Marty was saying about Realmuto, if you're taking Sal in the top 70, you're not taking guys going near him like Kenley Jansen, like Luis Castillo, Kevin Gausman, Alec Manoah, Christian Javier. I think with the sort of depth at your top catcher that you can get, Sal might be a little bit of a risk going this early. And I'd rather wait on catcher, pass him up, and I'll let myself get a guy like MJ Melendez two or 3 rounds later, or even a little bit further behind that.
Can't disagree with you there. I don't like when there's not a lot of disagreements, but at the same time, I think we're all kind of in the top 10. It's like the 7th. I think we all love in some way, shape, or form the 7 through 10 values more than a lot of the guys going inside the top 6. So I think with you, LC, just wait another couple rounds and get one of these guys that are a little bit more of a bargain for you. Doc, did we go to yours?
No.
Go ahead.
Mine is Will Smith, the 3rd rated catcher, an ADP of 49, a min pick of 26. So some people are taking him in the 2nd round. Start out with the fact, and this is a joking point, that you might take the ex-closer, Will Smith, instead of him. So you want to avoid that stressful situation.
Yeah.
But when you're drafting for a hitter in a roto league, you're going for 5 categories: average power, or average home run, runs, RBI, stolen bases. Well, in terms of average, he's hit 260 or below in each of his 3 full seasons. He got you 1 stolen base last year. his counting stats will probably go down with Trey Turner gone, and there's not going to be as many opportunities at the top of the lineup. So now you're really banking on home runs, and he's had 20 the past couple seasons, but is that going to continue? His barrel percentage is in the 72nd percentile, hard hit percentage in the 67th percentile. His BABIP has been below 300 every year. They're going to play less games in Coors now. And when we're talking about the opportunity cost, you're passing on guys like Cedric Mullins, half a season of Max Scherzer, a potential bounce back from Matt Olson, Jazz Chisholm if you believe in him. And just the last point, we've seen his walk percentage go down in each of the 3 seasons as he's played more games, from 14.6, 11.6 to 9.7. So as he's seeing more pitches, he's getting less patient. And I'm going to be interested to see if this trend continues.
Also, a Dodgers team that's got their worst lineup offensively feels like forever.
I feel like there's been a Dodger tax just associated for years, and maybe it's people that are kind of lazily, oh, it's the Dodgers, they'll acquire someone, but they have a lot of aging talent on that team.
It'll be interesting. I don't know if they're going to be leaps and bounds the best team in baseball this year, like they have been the last couple of years. Jasper says, is Kirk going to be worth a damn? Picked the better of the bad words there. We can listen back, Jasper, to we talked about Alejandro Kirk a little bit, and I think we all love him. Callan brought him up, and we were all in love with him. So Kirk is definitely going to be a favorite of triple play here. I'll finish the hate going inside the top 10 here with my fade, which is Dalton Varsho. And I thought someone else might take him, and I was kind of surprised that no one brought him up. He's going to a Toronto Blue Jays lineup that's going to be great for his counting stats, but I don't expect him to be hitting high in the order. I have to check what roster resource has him hitting, but he slashed 235, 302, 443 last year, 27 homers, 74 RBIs, 46 walks, and 16 steals. So great counting stats from the catcher position. This will be his final season eligible at catcher, as for people that don't realize, he is a phenomenal outfielder. I think he was plus 19 or minus 19 runs saved last year. Whatever.
Yeah, the best rated outfielder in all of baseball by far.
He's insane. So he's going to be an outfielder probably the rest of his career. So for redraft purposes, you will still get the catcher benefit, but in Dynasty, if you can sell him now as a catcher, that's definitely where I would be trying to do. But we look at his 16 steals, which I think is the big appeal for him to be the second catcher selected. He had 8 of his 16 between September and October. So half his steals came basically in about a month and a half of the season. And I'm not sure that he runs as much in Toronto, a team that's best to be just kind of mashing and using their offense, not having to rely as much on stolen bases like he was when he was in Arizona with a weaker lineup. So I'm wondering if the steals go down or if the steals go up. We talked about how the whole league itself is going to have stolen bases go up with the bigger bases. You can't throw more than 2 pickoff attempts. So stolen bases from him will become a little bit less valuable if other catchers are starting to steal more too. Then you play into the fact that he was very bad against left-handed pitching last year, one of the worst catching bats against left-handed pitching, and they might platoon him versus lefties. So that also becomes a factor for me when looking at that. So I just think as the number 2 catcher, if he's going to be platooned potentially against lefties, if his steals either like stay the same or they go down in the Toronto lineup, I think it's too rich at the number 2 spot. So I'm out on Dalton Varsho this year.
And roster resource has him batting 6th currently in the lineup.
That's what I thought. He'd hit kind of towards the bottom. Yep. They're so stacked there.
And the Blue Jays were 21st in stolen bases last year. So I think of stolen bases as a team philosophy. So if him hitting, back end of the lineup, maybe he doesn't steal as much.
That's what I'm saying. I think, again, you have the side where it increased in stolen bases, but everybody else is going to be running more. Or you have the side that he's in a lineup that's not going to run as much. And I think that could hurt him too. So, yeah, again, number 2 catcher, not for me. Let's look now. Let's go to the 11 through 20 range. This is where things get a little more interesting because now you can pick guys in the closer half of the top 11 to 20 because they're already a value, you could say. So it's not like we're just fading the top guys here. So let's go back to Callan. Give us your favorite going in the 11 to 20 range.
Yeah, this is another guy who last year I had a good amount of shares on, and it kind of came back to bit me in the butt. but I'm still jumping back on. I'm going with Keibert Ruiz. I think that the playing time is going to be another guy who it's guaranteed playing time in that Nationals lineup. Yeah, it's going to be a bad lineup, but he's sitting in the middle of a lineup, which you like to look for. His counting stats continue to prove. He's currently a steamer. He's projected for 16 homers, 60 RBIs, 55, 60 runs scored, which isn't anything special, but in terms of the value you have at the catcher position, I think he's going to continue to improve. He's starting to bounce back in terms of his advanced metrics. He's improved in almost every category from his rookie season, which was very short, but I think that this is going to be someone that we look back on. He's currently going at pick 183, which is very late. I believe that comes out to the 12th, 13th round, something around there, which I'm willing to take that as my catcher one of the last guys right around the top 12 to 15. I'm okay. I think my top catcher in fantasy for my number one, I should say. And I think that I think he's good value compared to the guys that are going around him. I'm willing to wait and take and expect the breakout for a guy who's just traded for Max Scherzer and Trey Turner to get back to that potential we all know is still out there.
Steamer projects him for a 264 batting average, only striking out 11.6% of the time, 16 home runs and 16 home runs and 61 RBIs. That'll play. That's very steady from the catcher position, only striking out 11.6% of the time, as I mentioned. So I think you're right. And you're getting him at the catcher 14. So if you're in a one catcher league, he's going basically outside the top 12. And if you're in a two catcher league, you can snag him as your first catcher, or if you go catchers early, he'd be a great second catcher too. So love the value there.
I got to piggyback. That's my guy too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not drafting with you, buddy. It looks like you.
Yeah, we're on the same wavelength right now.
Every time, and with Keibert, I mean, he's only 24 years old. He's batting fourth in the lineup. His profiles, it's pretty incredible. He's a great contact hitter who doesn't strike out. His expecting batting average was in the 91st percentile last year. And I'm not saying he's going to hit 20 home runs, but I'm saying in AAA, he had 21 home runs and 316 plate appearances. So he might be able to flirt with that 15, 16 home runs with a solid batting average, decent counting stats, playing every single day in that lineup. So I'm all in on him too. I had him a lot last year, and he bit me too as well. But I'm back in, baby.
I'm going to be interested if you guys are simpatico the entire way here. Then you definitely can't draft together.
This is like the nicest pod we've ever had.
I know.
He's a nice guy. Come on.
You guys should just hold hands at this point. All right. Next one here. Let's go to a little cheesecake. Let's go to your fade or your favorite going 11 to 20. And who do you like here?
Danny Jansen. I think the only thing we have to worry about him is his injury history. He's going to be 28 this year. Last season was sort of a mini breakout. If he hadn't gotten hurt and he had gotten himself to 400 or 500 plate appearances, he'd be looking at well over 20 home runs last season with excellent counting stats, hitting about 260. That was what he did last season. I picked him up early. I picked him last year. I thought he was going to be great. He started off awesome, hurt. I couldn't hold him, so I missed everything he did at the end of the season. If he gets 500 plate appearances this season, I think he just continues what he did last season, because after he came back from the injury, he was good again. I think Danny Jansen really is starting to come into what we had hoped when we were all high on him as like a late, sleeper 3 or 4 seasons ago. Now it's looking like his high zone contact rate, combined with the fact that he actually has pretty good power for a catcher, pretty darn good power for a catcher. His barrel percentage last year was 13%, well above almost twice league average. I think that Jansen is someone who is going way as the 14th catcher, 187th pick off the board. I would have him as my catcher one. I think I'd be fine with that.
And now with the trade of Gabriel Moreno, it's only 2 catchers fighting for playing time there, not 3. So we talked about earlier, Kirk can DH. He can catch. You could have Jansen catch, play some DH too. Like there'll be chances for them to kind of switch off there. And both of them can be very relevant. So I like the Danny Jansen call there too. Doc, What about you?
That leads me. I mean, you said Gabriel Moreno, and then it's a perfect silver platter for me. Right now, the 16th ranked catcher, and he was the main piece in the Dalton Varsho trade. So, the Diamondbacks think highly of him. When you look at 2022 across two levels, AAA and MLB, he had less than a 17% K rate in both of them. His K percentage in the MLBs was actually lower than it was in AAA. It was 11% during his time in the big leagues. But he hit above 300 at both levels. And he's a good source of steals in later rounds. Now, he didn't have as many stolen bases in the majors. He had 0 in 25 games, but he had 7 in 62 minor league games. So you figure he is a little bit more aggressive on the base pass, maybe somewhere in the middle. 58th percentile of sprint and speed, which isn't bad for a catcher. Now, the biggest thing that's going to block him is Carson Kelly, who does have some pop, but he only had 7 home runs last year. He's 28 years old, and this is the final year of his contract. So if the Diamondbacks don't see him as a future piece, and maybe they're out of contention, they ship him at the trade deadline, and then there's nobody in Gabriel Moreno's way. Steamer projection has him playing 73 games. I think he could easily outpace that, especially if they do trade Carson Kelly. And they're projecting 277, 7 homers, 35 RBIs, 3 stolen bases. I think the home runs are accurate, but I definitely see more RBIs and steals. And like I said, the 16th catcher, I think he's a good value there.
Getting someone with his pedigree, a starting catcher, also in a lineup that we expect to be a lot better next year, getting him as the 16th catcher after pick 200, he was my favorite pick here too. But just so we could talk about another player, I went away from him. But I love Gabriel Moreno. He'll probably, once draft season's done, be one of my most rostered players, I'm sure, just for the fact that I'm going to wait probably on catcher for a good amount of my drafts, and I'll grab him in a bunch. He'll get every chance to play, being the main part of that trade, like you mentioned, Doc. And again, just there was so much promise with him. They talked about how his batting stance has also kind of changed a little bit. He used to have, I think, the bat. They talked about how they had, I think it was he had the bat too far away from his body, and it would make it a lot harder for him to adjust. Now he keeps it a little bit closer so he can make more contact with his swing. That's one of the adjustments he made at the big league level. And I think the sky's the limit for him. So I like the pick there. The player I went over to get off of Gabriel Moreno is Logan O'Hoppe, who is one of my other favorite catchers going in this range. He is right now going as the 18th catcher over the last 2 weeks, going around pick 243. And just interesting, he was the 1-for-1 trade for Brandon Marsh we saw the Angels and Phillies do, and he already became the Angels' top prospect. He drew rave reviews for his leadership and intangibles from his minor league coaches, and he had an 850 OPS and threw out 26% of base stealers in 287 minor league games. Now, at the big league level, did not have a lot to go off of. 4 for 14, which is a 286 batting average, 2 RBIs and 2 walks, but looked like he belonged in the limited time he was there. The Angels don't have a true number 1 catcher at the moment. Max Stassi's always in and out of the lineup, so he could win the job out of spring training. And he's someone that last year across 104 games between Reading and Rocket City, which is the single A and double A, had 26 homers and 78 RBIs across 104 games. And he bypassed AAA on his first promotion when he got promoted September 28th. So I do think you look at the fact that he produced in the minor leagues. He has great leadership qualities. He can play amazing defense, throwing out 26% of base stealers. He also really worked on his eye at the plate, as he drew 70 free passes and struck out just 74 times in 104 minor league games. So he's got a good eye at the plate. He's going to have a chance to play a lot for this lineup. And you're getting him as the 18th ranked catcher. I think he's worth the gamble there. He's going to be somebody you can get as a catcher too. And if he makes it out of spring training, especially if you do your drafts early, if he gets the job out of spring training, his ADP will go up. So if you draft now, you can get him at a little bit of a discount. All right, let's go to the fade. And I'm going to kick this off with something that we all just acknowledged pre-show. Myself, Doc, and Marty Party are all fading the same guy.
We are?
We are fading the same guy.
Oh my gosh, let's just jump him Mafia style.
Well, Callan, I know, likes him because he talked him up a little bit earlier. So, Callan, you talked about how much you love the big dumper, Cal Raleigh, because you can get him as the 12th ranked catcher. It gives you some power. Do you think you'll take a lot of Cal Raleigh this year?
I don't know if I'll take a lot of Cal, just compared to the ADP potentially. We'll see. It's just looking around who goes near him with my guys. Tyler Stephenson goes around. I like him as well. Keibert Ruiz goes a little bit later, and they're fairly close to me in rankings. So more than likely, I'll wait and just take Ruiz a couple rounds later. But if I'm in need of power at that point, I know it's early to need power. I don't have any issues with taking Cal Raleigh. I think the power is there. I think it's a little different. You compared him to Mike Zunino, and I'm scared that it ends up like that. But lineup conjecture with the Mariners is a little bit different. He's going to be near the middle of that lineup. They don't have that particular DH this year right now. So even on the days when he would be off, he could still slide into DH and let Murphy catch. So I think the plate appearances get there, and he has that the complete power upside. And I don't think his batting average is as major of a downturn as Mike Zunino's was when he was hitting close to 200 at the maximum, where Raleigh, I think, could hit around 220, maybe 230 if he's lucky. And I don't think that's a total drain as Mike Zunino is. So while I might have to take a lot of him, he's not a fade for me. He's someone where I'm fine where he's being taken, but more than likely I'll wait for some of the guys that go after him.
All right, let's start the negativity crew. Marty Party, you want to start it off?
Yeah, I'm pissed because you stole my thunder, man. I literally put Mike Zunino 2.0, and I thought it was all clever. Yeah.
Where did you put that?
I put it on my show sheet for myself in Microsoft Word. So, and I put that down. I even went to Zunino's StatCast page, and I'm looking at his strikeout percentage and his XBA. I'm like, dude, I'm hilarious. So I'm not that.
We just think the like, Marty. It's okay. But you got if you have all the stats ready for the comparison, the people will love to know.
Near 30% strikeout percentage, just like your boy Zunino. A horrific expecting batting average. His was Raleigh's was in the 8th percentile. Zunino's flirts with like the 3rd or 5th percentile. So you're looking at a guy who's strictly power. I mean, if he's one of those guys that like you could draft super high, and halfway through the season you're dropping him, even in a 15-team league. If he hits one of the 1, 2, 3 months where he's striking out 35% of the time. So there's just no reason, in my opinion, there's no reason to take that risk. You can wait on, you can at that point you can wait and get some guys that are going to have a higher floor than that.
I agree with you. I'm looking who their backup catcher is. It's Tom Murphy. He doesn't go until after 700. Does anybody think that he could have a short leash at the catcher position if he's striking out a ton, or do you think that you feel pretty safe that he will keep the job at least most of next season?
After you hit the home run that he hit to get them into the postseason, he's got to have a solid leash just for the fanfare. If you let the big dumper go or you put him on the bench, I don't know how Mariners fans will take that.
Callan, why are you reading my mind? It's a business decision to keep him in the lineup, even if he's not producing.
Well, Doc, is there anything you would like to add on that?
Tyler Stephenson was my dislike. I don't know how you thought Cal Raleigh was.
What?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure you put. Let me look back. I'm pretty sure you'd put Cal Raleigh.
No, I mean I agree with everything you guys said. I just dislike Tyler Stephenson more.
Oh, I was looking at LC because his first one was Cal Raleigh as one of his potentials. That's on where I got it. That's my bad.
But go ahead. Tell me why you dislike Cal Raleigh.
LC, you can tell us the one that you picked, but how come you were potentially down on Cal Raleigh too? Is he frozen?
This happened again.
Oh, he looks freaky. Looks like he's got to give you a dad.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Dad, we can hear you. Uh-oh, Dad's still out of commission.
All right. No, I switched off. Raleigh was one who I thought I might fade. Eventually, I settled on Yasmani Grandal because I just think Yasmani's washed right now. I think his days as an elite fantasy catcher are over. His XBA was down there in the Zunino territory last year. His power just completely went away, and I don't know when it's coming back. He just seemed lost out there most of last season. So I'm keeping away from Yasmani Grandal this season.
All right, fair enough. Doc, talk about Tyler Stephenson. That's one of Callan's guys, so we might have a little bit of a fight here. Go ahead and tell us why you're fading Tyler Stephenson.
Well, I won't back down. Tyler Stephenson going as the 11th rated catcher at ADP 132. This is a guy that has played 190 games in his career, so barely over a full season. He has a career 9.1 walk percentage and a career 21.7 K percentage. The BABIP his 3 years that he's been in the league, 500, 333, and 409. So all above league average those 3 years. He has no speed. He has little protection in an awful lineup. He has been injured, so you worry about durability. The only thing that I think goes for him is that he plays in Cincinnati and that he's first base eligible, and first base is one of the deepest positions, I feel like.
Yeah, but he's multi-position eligible, which is never a bad thing.
Yeah, but I don't see many people struggling to find first basemen. In the drafts that I've done, I feel like that is the deepest position.
That's fair.
I can't imagine a time where I would put in Tyler Stephenson in my first baseman.
No, I mean, what if you draft 2 first basemen, both of them go on the IL?
Then that's bad drafting by me, and I deserve to.
If they get hurt, that's bad drafting.
2 first basemen getting hurt, yeah, that would be pretty bad. It would be unfortunate, but I don't think I would then say, oh, let me put in Tyler Stephenson in the replacement. When one got hurt, I'd probably go on the waiver wire.
You are a Tyler Stephenson hater, bro.
I am. Like, it's.
I'm with Callan here. I think he's not a bad value.
What? Oh, tell me about what you like about him.
I mean, I think better days are ahead for him. I think last season necessarily wasn't his full potential, and he's going to be in a Reds lineup. He's still in the best ballpark in baseball, and a Reds lineup that should have a little bit better around it than they did last year.
Those are the few bright spots I already mentioned.
All right. Well, again, I want to raise Jasper's trade request here. Reese requests Francisco Lindor from Springers for Willy Adames, Ian Happ, and Lance McCullers. What do we think of that trade, Cal? What do you think?
I think I'd take the Lindor side. Let's go up in that New York lineup now. I'm kind of pretty excited for what the Mets are going to be able to do this year. I'm not a huge, I do like Willy Adames. Happ's going to be, I think he's going to come back a little bit from what he did last year. So I'm willing to do that. And I think I would take the Lindor side.
So you want the Lindor side? Are we all agreement on the Lindor side? Because there's 2 variations of the trade here.
Yeah, iron this out for me. So
he would So Jasper would be giving up Lindor. He would be getting Adames, Happ, and Lance McCullers.
I hate a 3-for-1 because you essentially have to drop 2 people also.
That's still not enough for me.
Yeah, I really like Happ, and I think Adames, he's going to be, pretty solid. But what are you getting from McCullers? He could be injured the entire year.
I feel like McCullers' elbow is like a rubber band that's ready to snap.
One of the other versions of the trade was he would get Dustin May and Lance McCullers instead of Ian Happ.
No, I liked Happ the most out of all those 3 guys. Keep Frankie and go get someone to elite.
And then we talked about Lance McCullers' injury concerns. The final offer would be Adames, Happ, and Dustin May. So May instead of McCullers here.
I like that the best.
I'll take May over McCullers for Dynasty. I would agree with that.
Yeah, it's Dynasty?
Yeah, so you guys would take, I'm assuming this is Dynasty. Jasper likes the 2 starting pitchers in it. So Jasper likes the version where he gets Dustin May and Lance McCullers here. I think, and it sounds like you guys like the version where he gets Happ and Dustin May better.
Yeah, I like that one the most. But I mean, if he needs starting pitchers, I mean, that changes things, I guess. But even Lance McCullers, what are you getting? Especially in Dynasty, he's almost free.
If you're not contending this year, I think I would do that trade of giving Lindor for Adames, Happ, and Dustin May.
Yeah, I think you're right, Doc. If he's in contention or not, that's a huge deal of it. But I think we all like the non-Lance McCullers version because we're all concerned about his elbow. And he said it is Dynasty. So Willy Adames, Ian Happ, Dustin May, smash?
I mean, it's not a smash, but it's you sip your tea and strongly think it over.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, Doc. All right, let's go to our last part of the show. We're making good time here, as we will now talk about our favorite going after pick 20 or after catcher 20. These are a lot of times players you're pretty much going to get like outside the top 300. So you can pretty much get them. They're not free, but I mean, depending on the one you pick, some of them could be free. But these are tremendous values. Your catcher twos, the player that you might pick up and stream a lot during the season here. These are the catchers we really like here. And so let's kick it off, Callan. Let's go ahead and talk about your favorite going outside the top 20. Who would that be?
Yeah, I'll take Austin Nola. He's going currently a catcher 30 at pick 472. So he's essentially free in drafts. Last year, Austin Nola was the guy that everyone was pretty hyped up on. Everyone was kind of excited for, and he battled some injuries, but it's the similar argument you put. He's in a really good Padres lineup. You saw him hit as high as up near the top third in the lineup in the past. Obviously, it's not going to happen this year if Juan Soto and Tatis and everybody when they're healthy. But you look at that lineup context, you look at his with his K percentage, he's near the top of the league. He's above the 90th percentile. He doesn't strike out. He puts the ball in play. And in that ballpark, I think that's going to play. We were all excited for him. Yes, Luis Campusano is still there, but I feel like we've been waiting for Luis Campusano to do something for the past 2-3 years now, and they're still not using him. So as long as Nola stays healthy, I think he's a good value at that point. He's someone I'll be comfortable with taking Lay as my catcher too, especially with the free point. I just did a mock draft for pitcher lists for getting prepared for TGFBI, and he was one of the last catchers taking the entire draft. I'm 100% willing to pay that price and just wait till the 30th round. Just wait till he's there. Beef up my batting average a little bit. Not really get the power, but I can get that other position. So Austin Nola is the guy I like the most at that point.
All right, Austin Nola is Callan's guy. So Marty and Callan luckily did not go all the same through and through here. Marty, talk about your favorite.
Nola last year, and I just can't do it again. But this time last year, I was fully in on him as well.
Who's your guy this year, Marty?
Well, I'm actually writing down. I'm doing my time codes as we do this because
smart.
Condensed time here. But yeah, so let me just be clear here. If you're in a 15-team league and 2 catchers, you have to get your 2 catchers before this point. So this is like the classic, like it's 2 a.m. They put the lights on and only the ugly people are left, and so you just grab whatever's there. So that's how I feel about it.
The last girl at the bar.
Yeah, or whatever you're into. So for me, it's going to be Elias Diaz, the catcher for the Colorado Rockies. I don't have hard-hitting analysis to why, other than he plays in Coors. He is the starting catcher. He's hit 18 home runs in 2021, and he has a max exit velocity in the 80th percentile. So he has shown the ability to hit home runs. Steamer has him projected for 10 home runs with a 252 batting average. For his current ADP, you could do worse. He would be the only guy, but I'm not fully backing him, nor any of these guys plus after 20.
He was almost my pick, so we were this close to having the exact same. I was going back and forth with him, and just couldn't do it. But like I said, Coors Field catcher, why not?
Yep.
Why not?
You guys can definitely not draft together.
Nope.
There'll be too much sniping.
Justin, if you're listening to this, don't put us in the same TGFBI league.
Yeah. I gotta ask Elsie because I picked Yan Gomes, and that's your boy. He's like the ultimate catching professional. Did I take him from you? Like when you saw that I put him, were you just like my heart and just were you upset?
No, I'm happy when he gets love. We share a birthday, and catching was my position when I was a kid. So me and Jan were like this. I'm trying to get him on Triple Play for an interview. I feel like it's meant to be. We have the same birthday. So
same year.
I feel like it's meant to be. No, I'm older than Yan Gomes, but he's July 19th, just like me. Yeah.
I mean, he's 35 years old. It's not like you guys are like way off.
We know Art's older than 35.
Yes, for those that don't know. Yan Gomes, I mean, he's the ultimate professional. He's going to be the starting catcher for the Chicago Cubs, whose lineup is going to be surprisingly a contending team now, you would say, with the acquisitions they've made, their attempt to actually contend now. Last year, the stats weren't great, but keep in mind, he played probably, you could say, 293 plate appearances, about half of a season's worth of plate appearances, 8 home runs, 31 RBIs, 2 stolen bases at 235 batting average, 260 OBP. He's not going to strike out crazy amount, has had sub 20% strikeout rate 2 of his last 3 seasons, does not walk a lot. Last 3 seasons, about a 5% walk rate or less. but he's going to play, I think, a lot for the Cubs, and he'll be able to accumulate a lot of stats. And that type of accumulation in a decent lineup, and the fact that you can get him at catcher 29 at pick 422, why not? I mean, right before him is going Carson Kelly, who's going to be in a split with Gabriel Moreno. I would much rather take the catcher that's going to be playing every day than take one that's going to be on the small side of the platoon. So I just think he's tremendous value going there. But Art, I will turn it back to you, and you can talk about your favorite that's not Yan Gomes going here. Oh, he's giving us that dad look again.
So is it on me?
Yeah, you're good.
Is it my turn now? I'm sorry. I did freeze.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I want to talk about Endy Rodriguez. He's currently the 35th catcher going off the board. And he's probably not going to – he's currently not scheduled to open the season on the roster. Cross your fingers that the new rules have the Pirates thinking that he might win Rookie of the Year. That would get him to open the season on the roster. He's definitely the best hitting catcher that they have in their system. Their current catchers are Tyler Heineman and Austin Hedges, both defense first catchers. I think for DC, I want to leave my DC drafts with Endy Rodriguez. He has over 1,200 minor league plate appearances with a 927 career OPS. He's just a great hitter. And I feel like they have to give him a chance this year. He's going to be 23 this season. He's did a 3-level season last year, and they don't have any hitting. Like, bring him up. If you're a DC drafter, Endy Rodriguez should leave the draft on your roster. I think he's going to be good for the second half of this season.
I like it. Definitely a value and a good call there. Doc, your last player is a catcher that was an all-star this past season, and he's going outside the top 25 or 24 players here.
Yeah, Jose Trevino, the 28th ranked catcher, an ADP of 384, a min pick of 249. To be honest, I might set the new min pick on him. So the first thing that jumped out about him, he's in the top 100th percentile, meaning he's the top catcher in terms of frame percentage. So that's stolen and held strikes better than anyone else. Now, why is that important? When you have a rotation of Garrett Cole, Carlos Rodon, Nestor Cortez, Luis Severino, and Frankie Montas, you're going to want the best catcher for them. Now, you might be thinking, well, Kyle Higashioka is Garrett Cole's personal catcher. Well, in the series against the Guardians last year, they actually switched to Jose Trevino, and Aaron Boone called it at the time a seamless transition. So that might be something we see more into this year. But when you can do that, you're going to buy yourself more playing time. And that's what Trevino did his first year with the Yankees in 2022. He set a career high in games played with 115. The most homers he's had, 11. Runs and RBIs, 82. It is a great Yankees hitting lineup. They did get Aaron Judge back. 2 stolen bases. And, for a catcher, sometimes we see catchers give you a big old 0. And so even just chipping it a little bit. And he hit 248, which was above league average last year, which was 243. So he had a better average than Juan Soto. So I just think he's a starting catcher in a great offense that's going to play a lot. I don't get why it's so low.
Yeah, I mean, again, a tremendous value. I think people are concerned of him repeating what he did last year because he hadn't had a track record of doing that before. But again, you don't have to invest a lot to find out. 25th catcher off the board, going right now ADP of 345, min pick of 297, max of 401. So that's Jose Trevino. That's going to do it here for our catcher preview, though. At just about the hour mark. That's efficient podcasting if I've ever seen it. Callan, thank you so much for being on the show, man, and hanging out with us and bringing some life to these catchers, this position we don't talk about too much. So please, before we get out of here, plug all your great work, where people can find you on Twitter and any exciting stuff you got going on.
Yeah, you can find me at Twitter at Callan_Elsliger. It'll be linked somewhere. It's too long to spell, and I don't feel like spelling it at this point in the night. But yeah, I'm the host of you find my work on Pitcher List. I'm the host of the In the Pen podcast. We produce monthly during the off season, and then about spring training, we'll go back to weekly, breaking down all the bullpens throughout Major League Baseball. I'll be producing some articles. I'm not sure exactly what yet with Pitcher List, but it's been the nastiest pitchers articles, but it may switch over to some other stuff. I'm working on my rankings, so I might do some sort of a sleeper breakout bust of standard article or something with Pitcher List. But go to pitcherlist.com. You'll find my stuff there, and listen to the podcast network. You'll find me hosting podcasts weekly starting in spring training.
I love it. Love it. Calvin is a great follow and a great baseball mind. So make sure you guys are following him and his work all baseball season, and especially right before the season starts, as that's where you can get the jump on your league mates there. LC Marty Party Doc, any announcements or anything fun you want the people to know of coming up here?
Continue to follow the YouTube channel. Like, subscribe. Give us a like on all of our videos. Go to all 950 and just have them on in the background so our watch time goes up.
That's a commitment. Well, you can check out on the YouTube channel. Over the last week, I've dropped a couple of my favorite pitchers for this year. Sean Manaea is one of my top sleepers. You guys can check that video out. Tristan McKenzie and Nick Lodolo are two of my favorite breakouts this year. Marty and I are going to ride co-captains in front of that Nick Lodolo train this year. So if you guys want to hear why I'm big on him, and again, Marty as well for Nick Lodolo, you can check that out on the YouTube channel. But like Doc said, just like, comment, subscribe on the videos, helps a ton. Make sure if you guys are not in the Discord link is usually linked inside the YouTube videos, or you can find it if you DM Doc on Twitter at TripPlayFantasy or myself. And I believe that's it. Make sure you guys or you guys do stuff on the podcast if you like the podcast too. But for Calvin, for LC, for Marty Party, for Doc, I'm D Mendy. We're going to make like a bread truck and we're going to haul these buns. Catch you guys next week.